What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cougar Culture Podcast. I am your host, Dorian Alert, and this is our home for all things Kean athletics. Unfortunately, Jish could not be with us this week. He is actually in a show of Legally Blonde for his high school, so I want to extend a good luck and congratulations to my co-host, Jish Sokolsky, on continuing his pursuit of being an actor as well as a sports broadcaster. We've got a lot to get to this episode. We have a great interview set up with Marissa Robinson, who is a Benish Athletics Hall of Famer, playing field hockey, and now she's at Georgetown University in a new role, and we'll hear a little bit about that later on. And we also wrap up the season with the women's swimming team coming off of their season and Mets. But first, we're going to get started with After the Whistle. In the last 2 weeks, baseball has actually gone 4-0 in their matchups. They have several victories, including their most recent victory against St. Joseph's College, Long Island. They won that one 8-4 after a big eighth inning. This week, baseball was actually tabbed the 24th team in the D3 baseball top 25. That is a national ranking. So congratulations to the baseball team. And we also had an award this week. Colin Kiernan, he won Pitcher of the Week. Congratulations to baseball on continuing their success early on in this season. Next up, we have softball. Softball has also gone 4-0 in their last several matchups. Softball is off to a hot start, and they're coming off their most recent victory against DeSales. They swept that doubleheader. Some impressive performances all around by the softball team. Heather Clevenger tossed a complete game. She had 8 total strikeouts, so congratulations. Impressive. Volleyball is currently 2-2 in their matchups, going and impressively sweeping both St. Elizabeth University and John Jay College. That was a fun one to watch. Unfortunately, we don't have any sound from that one, but it was a great game. It was a great match to watch St. Elizabeth University nonetheless. Moving on to women's tennis, we actually have the women's tennis season starting back up this spring. They did play several matches throughout the fall, but now as play begins to pick back up, we will see a lot more. Interestingly enough, we have Kylie Brewer, one of the women's volleyball players. She plays on the women's tennis team as well, and she won Rookie of the Week. Congratulations, Kylie. And Kean, we're not unfamiliar with these dual sport athletes. We have several dual sport athletes throughout a lot of different sports. So, we'll be looking forward to what else we'll see from Kylie throughout the rest of the spring. Men's lacrosse currently went 1-1 this week in their matchups. They're coming off of a victory in which they dominated. Brady Moore scored 6 goals in their 15-10 victory against Maritime College. Congratulations. But that matchup against Haverford College on Saturday, March 19th was an exciting one. Although they did lose, there were some exciting moments, and we'll hear a little bit of that from our partners, John and Kevin.
It's McNulty on the ball. See what he can do here. Back out in the far corner. It's Badger trying to take it in as much as he can. A long stick defending him. 22 there. Pellish. Not much time left. Things getting dangerously close here. Porter trying to take it in. Doesn't take the shot though. Back to 99, and it's a goal! 99 with it, Pellegrino! Great pass from Porter, and Pellegrino finishing that one off brilliantly, getting another low shot in there. 1:18 to go. Kean got to get this one back quickly. Hopefully they can win the face-off. Looks like Maffa out there again. It's a 1-goal game.
And you heard the cries from the stand. They thought the prior person should have shot that one, but maybe a good extra pass there, allowing Pellegrino to launch that one from deep.
No doubt about that, Kevin. Lots of in-close passing working really well for the Cougar offense.
Haverford's basically going to be able to run this clock all the way out, though, so it's going to come down to the Cougar defensive pressure.
No doubt.
Finally, wrapping up with women's lacrosse. Women's lacrosse went 2-1 in this past week. They're currently 500, sitting at 3-3, but they had an absolutely dominant victory against Marywood University again on Saturday, March 19th, 15-0. But unfortunately, they did lose against FDU Florham at FDU Florham, 21-11. But we had the opportunity to hear a little bit of that dominant victory against Marywood University. And this time we had a 3-man crew featuring John, Jish, and Kevin.
Either of them, great defense to knock that one away by Brett Schneider. And here comes the Cougars the other way. Earhart with it, flying down the field. Past the 40 to the 30, she's all alone. She has many options she can go with this. Dumps it off, and the shot on net is good. Another goal. Great offense, great vision there from Earhart to stick the landing.
Yeah, that was tremendous action. Pileggi and Earhart running stride for stride together the whole time, and the second the defenders committed to Earhart, she just dished it right off to her teammate, who put an easy one in the back of the net.
No doubt about that. Great speed, brilliant on the transition, and as you said, stride for stride. That was really impressive.
Unselfish play there for Earhart.
We had a couple of other awards to get through. Raheem Mullins was once again Rookie of the Week, CVC Rookie of the Week for the week of March 14th. And Quincy Roy also won Rookie of the Week this week, the week of March 21st. Heather Clevenger won Pitcher of the Week for the week of March 14th. We also had Kylie Giordano win Offensive Player of the Week for the week of March 15th for women's lacrosse. And Katie Pileggi also won Defensive Player of the Week this week for the week of March 21st. Brady Moore for men's lacrosse also won CSAC Player of the Week. He had an impressive showing so far, and congratulations to him. And although basketball season is done, the awards are just starting to roll in. Shannon McCoy was listed as a finalist for the Jostens Award. Congratulations to her. But the awards continue to pour in. She was awarded D3 Hoops First Team All Region for Region 4, and also she was part of the All ECAC First Team. Congratulations to Shannon. I've done a lot of talking already, so now it's time to hear some of this interview with the women's swimming team as part of Cougar Quick Hits. Joining us on the pod now are a couple of familiar voices. I have women's swimming head coach Chris Swenson and a couple of swimmers, Brianna Shaw and Teagan Powell. How are you all doing this today?
Good. We're doing good.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Dorian.
Awesome. So I'm going to start off with you, Coach. As a whole, this has been one of the best, if not the best seasons record-wise from start to finish. What do you think contributed to that kind of success?
I think just getting a group of people in the pool that was committed to the same goal. This year had obviously a lot of, it was probably the most challenging year, but also the most successful year. So I think the fact that they were able to, navigate, what kind of happened mid-year with the spike and the pandemic and everything, and to finish on such a high note, it was just really nice to see kind of it all come together at the end of the season. But yeah, it was just one team committed to the same goal, and they did a really good job of just showing up every day, and all the hard work paid off at the end.
Absolutely. So for Teagan and Bree, both of you are kind of in a unique kind of situation where Bree, you swam last year, but it wasn't the type of season that it was. And Teagan, you're a freshman. So what was that experience like from start to finish, from workouts to having a full schedule to competing to going to Mets?
Honestly, training is always great. Like, it's great to go to practice every day, train with the team, but finally having that competition, having that drive to push your best, knowing that you're going against another team was a great feeling to have back again.
Yeah, I swam last year, but I haven't really been at a championship meet since about 2019, so it was great to get back in the pool with everybody. It was nice to taper again, and this, just season in general has been nice with the dual meets and then getting into Mets. That was a lot of fun.
Teagan, you had a couple of awards since the last time we spoke. We spoke back in early January during winter break, and you had 2 more Rookies of the Week and a Swimmer of the Week, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Of course. What led to you having such a great second half of the season?
Honestly, this season I was really just focused in on swimming the entire year, like making sure I got enough rest, got enough sleep, and just hydrated, stayed healthy, and also with the support of my coach and my team, they really pushed me through and pushed me to my limits during practice, which was what made me so successful this season.
She says sleep. That's a really good point because I think sleep is overrated. No, I'm kidding. But Coach, Mets were successful and, well, beyond successful. How do you think that the team performed down the stretch and heading into Mets and coming out of that?
Yeah, I knew we were actually primed for a pretty good championship weekend, the way we swam that last weekend versus CSI and TCNJ. That was a nice test to go Friday night and Saturday afternoon back to back heading into championships. On the psych sheet, we were projected to score somewhere like 320-point range, and we were just shy of 400. So we obviously outswam there. This was the first year we've had multiple swimmers qualify for 8 finals. And that's just going to keep getting better and better. So I think they did a really good job of setting themselves up, just the way that they trained. And then as we rested, everything came together at the end. But definitely, this was a very, very fun meet. To go into a meet like that with a small squad and to still come out in the top third of the conference, definitely something to be proud of, and something that we're going to build off of next year with the roster doubling in size.
Bree, I feel like every single time I told Coach this, every single time I logged into Instagram, a new record was falling or a new record was broken. And a lot of the records that were broken were records that you had broken earlier in the day. So was there any kind of extra motivation knowing that this would be your last set of meets for the season?
Any championship meet, there's a lot of extra motivation. I did have my parents on deck, so that was kind of fun to have them see the records being broken because they didn't get to see it last time. But just knowing that this was like the end of the season, like there was nowhere else to go with this. If I wanted to leave like a lasting mark on the season, this was the last time I could do it. And having like the other girls swimming next to me from the other teams that I could finally race against in certain events, like that was great too. Knowing that I could try and beat them or out-test them, that was fun. But just knowing that this was the end. Like if I wanted to do anything, this was the time.
Can you speak about how your teammates really helped out, because you did set records in the relays as well?
They are everything. I was like, that relay would have not gone down if it wasn't for everybody. In a relay, everyone is holding their own weight, and you gotta push off the wall as hard as you can. You gotta swim the person next to you. We had some great people in some of our heats. Like we were not seated very high, but in the ones where we had some competition next to us, I think that pushed us even more. And people swam faster than they thought they could, just by like the energy that everyone in the relay and on the sidelines.
Teagan, this one goes to you. When you see records starting to fall, how much confidence does that build in you moving forward?
Honestly, it's crazy to think that I can accomplish what I did this season. Also, it's a great perspective on what the team's going to be like next year. And like knowing that we're doing this now with 8 girls, I can't even imagine what kind of records we're going to be breaking next year and how many of those are going to be falling in comparison to what's happening this year, which is crazy to think about. So I think my confidence from this team has gone through the roof. I've had nothing but support from all my teammates and from coach. So I'm really happy with how this season has gone overall.
I'm expecting a lot of Instagram notifications next year. I know for sure. Coach, this last one goes to you. What does a swimming off season kind of look like? Well, for you and the swimmers, and looking at next season, I know it's way too early, but what can we expect?
Yeah, you say it's way too early, but today I'm working on next year's dual meet schedule. So try to be pretty early with that. The off season, with Division III, a lot of the onus falls on the athletes to kind of do what they need to do. So, when there's open swim, they'll get in the pool. There's just a lot more responsibility for the athletes than there is for the coaches when it comes to the off season at this level. My off season is not really been as quiet as I would have wanted it to be, but it's just a lot of recruiting, gone this weekend, gone next week, gone 2 weeks after that. And again, it's just continuing to build the roster the right way and just bring in, more teammates that can complement what these women have done this year. So as we continue to grow the roster, right, we can be a little more selective with who's coming in and how they mesh with the girls on the roster and what they're going to add in terms of value with their events. And it's really exciting to just kind of know what's coming. And I think the future is very bright. And a big reason for that is these two here, plus the other 6 that were at Mets. And we're just going to keep on building.
And now it's time to go beyond the competition with Benish Athletics Hall of Famer Marissa Robinson. Our next guest is inducted into the Benish Athletics Hall of Fame, and she currently is the Executive Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Georgetown University. I'm pleased to introduce Marissa Robinson. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about your career at Kean, but I do want to start with your current position and a little bit of background into what you did to get to where you are. So I really want to ask, how did you initially get involved with the NCAA?
Yeah, so it started back when I was a student athlete at Kean. I initially went into school for special ed and psychology, thinking that I was going to be a teacher. And along the way, realized I didn't see myself in the classroom every single day, but I still had this passion for education and being able to teach others. And I had no idea at the time what I was going to do or where it was going to lead me. But I remember Kim actually sent me an email about the Career in Sports Forum. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I was like, 200 people get selected. And, being so competitive, I was like, bet I'm going to apply for this program, and was selected to go. And that really is what started my journey to where I am today. When I was at the Career in Sports Forum, I learned a lot about not only myself and the transferable skills that I had being an athlete, but also just all of the careers that are available and out there in sports. I didn't know, right? I knew that I could be a coach. I knew that I could work in compliance. And I was like, I don't really see myself in either one of those positions. What does this look like? And I realized that I could do student athlete development, which essentially was teaching life skills to student athletes. So I just started to figure out, what does this journey look like for me? Reached out to a bunch of people in the surrounding areas in New Jersey, New York, Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, being from Delaware, just tried to find places that were close, and had conversations with people of like, how did you get to where you were? I definitely was just cold emailing them from the website. So not everyone responded, but the responses that I did get were super helpful. I was able to find my mentor through this process, Jessica Powell. She works at Columbia, and she really just helped introduce me to the NCAA postgraduate internship. And I was like, wow, I can work in leadership development at the NCAA, that put on the program that I felt like I took away so much from. So that's really what I, set my goals on. I was like, I want this internship. And I knew to do that, I had to get experience in college athletics. So I reached out to the University of Delaware, since it's about 15 minutes from home, and was able to work with their staff to create an internship position for the summertime. To get a little bit of experience. It was part-time, and initially thought it was going to be voluntary, but then I was able to, make a little bit of money doing it, and realize like, this is where I see myself. And then, took a leap of faith, applied for the internship program, and really put my game face on for those interviews, and was able to get that opportunity. And honestly, everything just kind of went up from there.
What's kind of funny is your journey kind of to where you is kind of how I got started, where it was, I looked at, okay, this is how so-and-so got to where they are. And then I didn't email, but I was just sending out DMs on Instagram and Twitter. And I was like, hey, do you think you can like give me some tips, or how did you get, and that, like you said, not everyone responded, but the people that did respond really helped me out.
Yes, I'm not that old, but that makes me feel old. The email route versus the social media. That's the new thing, though. That's just definitely where people are engaged. I remember when I started saying like, dang, I got to get my Twitter game up. I got to get my Instagram game up just to make sure you're showcasing all of the things that you're doing. And even now, communicating with the student athletes that I work with, I know that it has to be through social media. So I'm glad people responded to you.
But I shouldn't say lucky, but for me, it actually happened right when the pandemic was starting. So it was like people were at home. There weren't sports happening. So people were at home, and it was kind of like, hey, can you think we can hop on a call? And that's really what happened.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, honestly, like you said, it's not luck. It's just like you taking advantage of the timing. So many people, that was the first time they actually got to slow down and be able to share their knowledge with other people. People love to talk about themselves and to be able to shed light on how they got to where they were. So I'm glad that you got to take advantage of that.
Thank you. And you took advantage of every opportunity you got as well. You spent 4 years after you graduated with the NCAA as assistant director of leadership development. What did that role kind of entail, and what were some of the outcomes of that role?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I had my eyes set on the postgraduate internship in leadership development. And then speaking of timing, everything worked out just as it was supposed to. And I was able to stay on full time. During my time as an intern, I was like, wow, it'd be great to stay here. But no one in the staff was leaving. So I was like, okay, that's not going to be an opportunity. And literally like a month before I finished, one of the guys that worked in our department, his wife also worked in college athletics. She got a new job moving back closer to where their family was in New York. So he would be leaving. And I was like, wow, I did not think this was going to happen. So once the position came open, definitely put my name in, and really, like I said, was able to learn so much during my time as an assistant director. The role held a lot of different responsibilities. So a lot of it was focused around initiatives for minorities and women in athletics. So whether that was coaching or in administration, really trying to build up the pipeline to create a more diverse leadership across the board, that we see a better representation for our student athletes to mirror kind of what they look like. And a couple other things were student athlete programs. So I got to work with student athletes, coaches, and administrators, which is what I loved most about the position, is that it wasn't one specific audience that I was working with, because as I learned more about the nuances of administration, it made more sense to how to best support student athletes. When I learned more about the things that coaches are thinking about, it made me think, okay, how can I be a better administrator, and what information do administrators need to know to best support everyone around them? I also oversaw our postgraduate interns. So to be an intern to now be their supervisor was amazing, because I knew what it was like to be in their shoes and to put in the hours and to grind, and just to have people around me when I was an intern that really valued me and wanted to see my growth. I really just tried to make sure I poured back into our interns so that they got those same opportunities. And then all the way up until I left, I was working on, for a couple years up until I left, I was working on what is now the Leadership Collective that the NCAA has, which is a platform to showcase minority individuals in administration, a space where people can go to look for speakers, to look for potential new hires, really just showcasing like there are qualified, very good administrators that are minorities in this business. We can no longer use the excuse, well, I can't find them. Here's an entire platform for you to tap into that lists people that would be a really good fit for your organization potentially. So that was something that stretched me, because I never had to do a project like that before. But definitely I know that it's in great hands with the team in leadership development, and that people are really going to be able to benefit from it.
That role eventually led to you starting a new role in 2020 at Georgetown University as the executive director for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is kind of a two-part question. One, how did you find Georgetown? And two, how does that role how is it similar and different from what you did previously with setting up the initiatives with the NCAA?
Yeah, so much is about networking, and honestly, you don't even realize sometimes that you're planting seeds and how that's going to impact you moving forward. So I've had the opportunity to work with several individuals from Georgetown throughout my time at the NCAA. Our athletic director, Lee Reed, our senior women's administrator, Sharon Brumell, and then our former executive director for our Cooper Athletics Leadership Program, Maya Ozeri. She recently left last year. But I had the opportunity to get to know them on different levels throughout my time at the NCAA. And I always knew I wanted to get back to the East Coast, being a little bit closer to home, but never knew exactly what that would look like. So these were just times where I just, had really good conversations with good people. So in 2020, I was like, okay, I don't plan on leaving the NCAA right now. Like, there's a pandemic going on. I was leading some new initiatives within the department. And I just got a call that this position was opening up at Georgetown and that I should look at it. And I talked to my boss about it. And she was like, as much as I want you here, I know this is something that you have to go for. And the role here, to kind of answer also the second part, is this role that I'm in is brand new. So I am the inaugural executive director for this position, which was really exciting to be able to work alongside people that I look up to in the industry, but then also be able to create a legacy here at Georgetown. That really drew me in. It being 2 hours from home versus a 12-hour drive. And what I really liked is that it would allow me to continue to work with student athletes, coaches, and administrators. It would not limit me to go back to just working with one, it wouldn't force me to work with one audience. Like I said before, I love that I had multiple audiences at the NCAA. So it was a perfect storm of everything that I was looking for. When I was in college, I knew that I really wanted to continue in education, right? But I didn't know I could do that in sports. The NCAA allowed me to marry my passion for education and sports into one. And this role allowed me to tie in another level to that. So not only education, not only sports, but also social justice. And if you would have asked college Marissa where she would have been 10 years from now or 5 years, I don't know how many years I would have been from college, I guess like 7 years, I probably would have gave you a completely different answer because I didn't know these roles would even exist. But all of the work that I've been doing leading up to this point have prepared me for this role, which I'm very, very fortunate and excited to think about. Like, as I interviewed for this role, I was like, okay, this is kind of different from what I do at leadership development, but still the same, right? Still working with people, still putting on programs, really focusing on making sure people feel seen, valued, and heard. All things that I was doing, but may not have been in the job description, but were a part of how I led my life. And I took a second to reflect, to be like, am I qualified for this? Because I'm not going to lie to you. I was very nervous to apply because I knew how badly I wanted the role. And I knew if I didn't get the role, I would be upset. And I would be like, where's next for me? Because this was the perfect, combination of everything that I was looking for. So as I took that time to reflect, I realized, you've been building environments of belonging your entire life, and you just weren't able to put words to it, right? Like, you wanted to go into special education because you believe that everyone has the ability to learn, regardless of any disabilities they may have or any thoughts other people may have about them. The spaces that you try to create in the locker room, then at the NCAA working with women and minorities, I'm like, you're prepared for this role. You just have to believe in yourself to actually be able to get it done. And once I kind of shifted that mindset, the rest is history. Here we are.
And I picked up on a theme of, I feel like timing is kind of everything, because you said originally you weren't planning on leaving the NCAA, and now look at you, you're at Georgetown in this awesome new role.
Yeah. So very, very fortunate that the timing is the way that it is. Like I said, like at that time, I was like, okay, I'm not going to leave right now. I knew eventually I would get back to the East Coast, But then when I got the call, I was like, okay, this is not exactly what I planned, or where my mindset was at that time, but everything works out the way that it is supposed to. So
Absolutely. So, when I say the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, what do those three words mean to you?
now there's a really good quote by author Chan who talks about diversity as a fact. So when I think about diversity, I'm thinking about the different demographics, right? It could be race, it could be gender, it could be sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, it could be diversity of thought, right? Really what we're thinking about for diversity is difference. And that's a fact. Like, how many women do you have? How many minorities? How many internationals do you have, right? Then when you think about equity, let's go to equity next, sorry. Equity is a choice. So when I think about equity, it's not giving everyone the same thing, because that would be equality. It's giving people what they need to be successful. So equity is a choice. Are you choosing to acknowledge that different people need different things? Or are you choosing to just give everyone the same thing and say, good luck from there? When I talk to our students and our staff about it, I think of like, okay, I played field hockey. If I gave every sport a field hockey stick instead of the equipment that they needed, like, they wouldn't be successful. Like, try imagining to play field hockey with lacrosse, like with a lacrosse stick, or vice versa. It's not going to happen, right? So we acknowledge that everyone has different needs to be successful. So the choice is to acknowledge them and to then make that choice to give people what they need. And then inclusion is an action. So inviting people into the space and making sure that they are heard. And then the last part of author Chan's quote is that belonging is an outcome. So diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion is an action, and belonging is an outcome. So that's really how I look at it. I look at like diversity, equity, and inclusion are the foundations to belonging. And that goes across the board, regardless of identity. Everyone wants to feel as though they belong in a space and that they are celebrated, that they are heard, and that they are seen.
We're getting some gems here, absolute gems. I love it. So what is kind of your vision for what'll be the outcome of your current role?
Yeah, so definitely that feeling of belonging, right? Just making sure that people, after their 4 years, after their first year, second year, third, whatever it may be, they're like, I'm glad I chose Georgetown. This is the place for me. I was able to be my authentic self here. I was able to grow into, myself while I'm here at this institution. I was valued, I was seen, and I had a good time while I was there as well. And what that looks like for us is being able to create different programming, different educational opportunities to be able to ensure that everyone here on staff, coaches, administrators, and student athletes understand that this is a vital part of being a good leader. It's a vital part of being a good human and going out into the world where you're going to have to interact with different people. So I got some things up my sleeve, really what we've been working on, building out the strategic plan here. So very excited about that. Hoping to build out a 4-year model for programming. And again, I think this goes back to my athlete, want to be the example for diversity, equity, and inclusion programming on college campuses within their athletic department. So to really be able to set a standard for how to create spaces for people to be heard, but also to get new knowledge and challenge their way of thinking while they're here. So hopefully within the next year, I can launch that 4-year initiative, in addition to the things that we're already doing around our 3 priorities, which are education, culture, and outreach. So making sure that people understand that diversity, equity, and inclusion is more than just programming. It's looking at the policies and the procedures that are in place. It's looking at your hiring practices. It's looking at your retention strategies, the vendors that you're working with, all of the things across the board. So I'm really excited to see what can happen here at Georgetown. I have a great support system from leadership, not only within athletics, but on campus as a whole. And we just have a mission here that people understand that diversity and discourse and conversation and dialogue is valued and it's encouraged. So I definitely think this is a great place to be able to launch, hopefully, a really pivotal and inspiring programming.
I'm excited to see and eventually hear about everything that will eventually happen.
Yes, thank you.
So now we're going to transition a little bit into your career at Kean. You were very involved student athlete at Kean, and that's kind of an understatement. You played field hockey, you were involved at Kean SAC and National SAC, and you held not only positions as a student athlete, but you held positions on campus. How did you kind of find time to balance all of that? Because it's a lot.
Honestly, I don't know how I did. I did the most in college. I definitely did the absolute most. I honestly feel like I've functioned better that way than I do sometimes with free time. I feel like every student athlete, once they transition, they're like, wait, what am I supposed to do with this free time? Because I never had it before. And I definitely made sure I didn't have free time. Even before that moment, just with working in athletics and working on campus with the programming board, I really just tried to like schedule my days out. And honestly, I don't know. I look back like I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But I think everything that I was involved in, I cared about, or I knew like I was getting as much from it as I was also giving to it. So it was fun. Or it was, something that I know I needed to build my resume or, get some money in my pocket. And it really just started to teach me a lot about, adulthood. Is you live your own life in college, but being able to have jobs and leadership opportunities showed me, what I was really passionate about. And I don't think looking back, I would change anything. I wouldn't have not taken a job or not done this opportunity, because all of the things that I was able to participate in at Kean led me to where I am. Like I am definitely very, very grateful that I did so much there, because I can see a skill set that I gained in college being used now. The being involved in the programming board as a student showcased to me ahead of time, like, how do you get students to come to programming? What is needed to put on a program? Like, it made me very detail oriented, to just think about someone's experience from the moment they walk in the door, well, prior to them even getting there, to when they leave. So being a student athlete just really prepared me for life. And I don't think that in the moment I knew that fully, but very, very grateful for my time at Kean.
Transitioning onto the field, you were a consistent starter throughout all four of your years. You started every single game that you played. But what I noticed the most going through the numbers, because I'm a sports nerd, I'm a numbers guy. Your points shot up like an incredible amount. You went from 12 points your freshman year, 12 points your sophomore year, to 43 and 40 in your junior and senior years. What do you kind of attribute to you being so effective on the field?
Dang, I didn't even know what my numbers were. It also breaks my heart that I'm still a little bitter that I didn't beat my points my senior year, but that's okay.
I hear the athlete in you starting to come out.
It's all right. It's all right. I was injured for a hot second, but no excuses. Honestly, it was being forced to step up in a leader in a different way. I learned that for myself, my freshman and sophomore year, I was, like you said, I started every game. I was definitely a key role player on the field, but I don't think I truly stepped into my potential until my junior and senior year, and realizing that if I go, people will follow. So I think I also just kind of stepped into that confidence of, like, you got this. I had wonderful seniors and upperclassmen my freshman and senior year. And that junior year, I'm like, all right, well, that's me now. We lost a lot of seniors my sophomore year. And we had some freshmen that decided they didn't want to play anymore. So there was a large part of our team that we lost going into the spring of my sophomore year and into my junior year. So that spring season, I was like, dang, this is a core right here. Like, we really have to figure out how we can set this up. And then most of the people that were around me on the field my junior year were freshmen. So I knew that it was my responsibility to make sure that they felt like they were a part of this team, and to make sure that they knew that we needed them to be successful. And I think that's really just kind of what turned around. And then once I got a little bit of taste of, the ball hitting that backboard a couple more times than usual, I got really into it. Just of like, all right, like, I want the ball, on my stick. And I want, if the game's on the line, like, I want the team to look to me. I want the coaches to look to me and know, like, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get us to where we need to be. So I would say that's why I didn't know they jumped up. Like, that's I don't know. I'm not that great at math. It's been a while, but like, 3 almost 4 times what I was doing. So
Yo,
it's crazy.
absolutely. If it makes you feel better, you did shoot a higher percentage your senior year. So
Thank you.
All
It does. I remember I don't know if Denise listens to this, she'll laugh, but like, when I got injured in one of the games, like, we were playing a team that I was like, all right, I want to score at least, twice. And then I got hit in my thumb with the ball, like, in the first, like, 6 minutes. And Denise came out to me and I was just like, all right, you're going to wrap this, like, let's wrap it up so that I can, like, go back in the game. And she's like, Marissa, I'm going to get the cart. And I'm like, no, like, I need to be in the game. Like, that was such a hard thing for me. And I remember we were driving off campus to go to the hospital, and I was like looking at the scoreboard, and she's like, Marissa, it's okay. Like, you'll be back out there eventually. But that took a lot for me to leave the field, because I had never not been with my teammates. All 4 years, I've never not been with them. So that was like a growth moment, looking back of like how, like, looking back, there are definitely some things I could have done better to lead from the sideline on the games that I was unable to play. But it just makes you think about, like, leadership is not just how you perform on the field, but also what you do off of it.
So that kind of leads into my next question, which is, do you have a particular game or moment that sticks out in your head?
Game or moment? Oh, I don't think I have one from my entire experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's one game that I would definitely say sticks out. But I would say something that will forever be a memory for me is when we were able to take our overseas trip to Holland, going into, I guess that was the end of my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, like the summer before my sophomore year. That was amazing to be able to go and play with my teammates and my coaches in a country that is known for field hockey. Like, the turfs that they had were beautiful. Everyone played field hockey. Like, you just saw little kids riding on their bikes to the field, or to the pitch, as they call it, with their sticks and their baskets on the front. So it was a really cool experience. And we had a rough freshman year, but then to come back sophomore year, and to have a really good season, like, and the team just felt way more connected and together. So that would definitely be a moment that will always stick out. The games we were able to play, we were able to see, Olympians perform, got to hold a gold. I have a picture with the gold medal around my neck from one of the players that came and spoke with us. So definitely a very monumental experience in my career.
That sounds like something I would never forget.
It was so much fun.
I bet. So I guess my final question would be, you had a lot of awards and for your play on the field as a field hockey player, and it also led to you being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So another two-parter kind of, what did it mean to you to be involved or inducted into the Hall of Fame with a lot of people who were your peers at one point? And also, which one of these accomplishments sticks out to you or means the most to you?
Oh, okay. So it was really surreal being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I have an older brother who played baseball in college, and he was inducted to his college's Hall of Fame about a year or two before, maybe a year or so before I was. And I just remember him calling me and telling me, like, I was one of the first people that he told. So when I got the call from Kelly, he was the first person that I called to be like, you set this path, and you set like these goals that I wanted to make sure that I reached, maybe subconsciously even, right? And to be able to say like, okay, like you did it, and like I was able to do it after you, was a really, really cool feeling. And I just remember being like, me inducted, like, did I do enough? Like how did I get I was inducted with these people that have like crazy stats. Like, you talk about numbers, like it was just like, wow, like Marissa Robinson's gonna be considered the same of all these people that are with me right now. So it was a really very special experience. Two of my teammates that are two of my closest friends surprised me and came to the induction, as well as be able to, share that with my parents and one of my siblings and my fiance and my coaches. So it was just a really great time to be able to be like, I guess I did leave a mark at Kean, and I was just very proud of myself, because when I was a student athlete, I was never satisfied with anything that I did on the field. The awards that I got, I was always like, I could have done this. If I would have done this, then I would have gotten this. Which sounds crazy to think that you think those things, like when you get things like you're all conference, you're midfielder of the year, you're all American, like what are you complaining about? When I look back now, but like at the time I just was not proud of myself. I always thought there was something more that I could do. So being inducted to the Hall of Fame allowed me an opportunity to be proud of myself, when I never was, I would say, during my 4 years. And then the second part of that question was, what's my like
which one of the awards kind of means the most to you?
Oh, okay. I would definitely say, so this isn't 100%, excuse me, not 100% like sports related, but kind of. So the year after I graduated, I made it to the top 30 for the NCAA Women of the Year award. So in the top 10 of all Division III women athletes, which is crazy again to think about, but I would definitely say that is one that that really stands out to me, because like I said, as an athlete, I set my eyes on things like, I want to be a midfielder of the year, I want to be an All-American, I want to be an All-Conference. Like one day in the back of my mind, like I remember seeing like our little Hall of Fame, that would be cool if I could make it up there, right? Like never knowing what was really needed to do that, but just being like, these are the goals that I want to set for myself. And I was able to control those goals in the sense of like by how hard I worked or how I was performing. But for Women of the Year, it was like a culmination of not just my awards on the field, but also the things that I did off of it. But it was like other people saw it in me, right? Like I had no control over, I had to write like a little essay thing, but like that I probably could have did a little bit better on. But like they pretty much like reviewed all of my accomplishments and saw all of my hard work instead of me saying like, hey, here it is. So that was really cool to be like, wow, I've been doing all of these things really for myself to kind of push myself, but other people have recognized all of the work that I've been putting in.
Were two amazing interviews that I really enjoyed doing. Talking to the women's swimming team is always a pleasure, as well as getting to know Marissa Robinson, as well as speaking to Marissa Robinson and hearing about her new role at Georgetown University. But now, unfortunately, the episode is coming to an end, and this is where we preview the week ahead. Coming up on Saturday, March 26th, we have a big day of sports ahead of us. All teams will be home this Saturday, March 26th. So you have an opportunity to watch several, if not all, the different sports. Starting out, men's volleyball has a tri-match. Their first matchup is against Southern Virginia University at 1 p.m. and their second of the tri-match will be against Drew University at 3:30 p.m. Then we have softball playing Muhlenberg College at 1 p.m. also, so those two will be running concurrently together, and they're playing in a doubleheader as well. Later on at that same time, we have women's lacrosse will be playing against Farmingdale State College also at 1 p.m. And baseball will also be kicking off at 1 p.m. against Eastern University, and they will be playing in a doubleheader against them as well. Their second matchup should start around 4 o'clock. Finally, to round out the day, men's lacrosse is playing their game at 7 p.m. against Stevenson University. And that is a day full of sports. There's going to be so much to do, so many different games to watch. Definitely don't want to miss out on that one. Then on Sunday, the lone sport, Sunday, March 27th, we have a women's tennis match. They will be playing at Drew University at 12 p.m. Look out for that and the results from that. And then we kind of slowed down a little bit. There are no games on either Monday or Tuesday. But rounding out the month of March, our last matchups for the month of March will be a women's lacrosse and men's lacrosse game. The women will be playing away in Scranton, Pennsylvania against the University of Scranton at 4 p.m. on March 30th. And the men will be playing at home against the University of Scranton at 7 p.m. So good luck to all of the teams playing this week. And I'm very excited to hear of the results for the sports that are occurring this weekend. I had a great episode, and I hope all of you tune in next week for another episode of Cougar Culture.